Hi, everybody. My name is Lorina Quigley, your mystic medium. I am a psychic medium, channeler, energy healer, teacher, mentor. I do sessions for people live and remotely. But what I wanted to share in this video is I had one experience that really changed my life as far as the trajectory of my life and working in the mystical world, because I've had my hands in the mystical world since I was a kid, because I had many experiences, but this one experience really changed my life. And anyway, I couldn't ignore it any longer. Well, I didn't even try. It was like, oh yeah, this is fun, this is cool, I'm in all the way. And anyway, and I have had many psychic experiences, not just psychic experiences, just astral projection when I was a kid, remembering past lives when I was a kid. I was raised Mormon in Utah. I've said that before, but I was raised I was raised Mormon in Utah. This did not belong in the realm of what I grew up in. And being raised Mormon in Utah, well, you hear about mystical experiences, and most religion is based on mystical experiences. That's, I think, how all these things came about, believing in spirits and all of these other things. It is part of it. But being raised Mormon, there's the whole Joseph Smith thing. He had beings that came to him, and he had an angel come to him, and that's how the Book of Mormon became, because they came from the golden plates, and there was, they believe in prophecy and seers. So having mystical experiences was not a new thing to hear about, but reincarnation, that's of the devil. I had a lot of experiences where, well, my mom would say that a lot. And there's a lot of fear with the Mormon church too, which a lot of religions are like that. So I didn't fear these things, but I knew that they just didn't belong in the world that I was being told was out there. So anyway, I did have a lot of psychic experiences. I saw some wild stuff. I had been in haunted houses. I saw tables move by themselves. I saw lights flash on and off, all sorts of things. And I had psychic experiences where, and I had some tarot cards. I would read. I got the psychic flashes when I was reading the tarot cards. So I knew I was psychic, but I didn't, and I thought it was fun and cool, and I could look at people and I could, not always, but sometimes I could see spirits, kind of something inside of them jump out at me from behind their eyes. Sometimes I could see almost like into people's souls. Didn't know what to do with that. And that's the thing. I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know what to do with having these experiences. And I didn't share them, really, except for rarely. Anyway. So I knew I was psychic, and I kind of played around in that field, and I read books, and I read Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi. So I knew that people were having incredible experiences and that you could, but what do you do with that? And I also did some energy healing. I started that in 1991. Yeah, and and in the 80s in New York, it was the channeling time in New York, where everybody was channeling. It was those Shirley MacLaine days where there was, I think, this guy named Scott Ryerson, if I remember that name correctly. He channeled some guy named Lazarus. Anyway, she wrote about him in the book. I went to see him with a group of other people, and we all channeled. And so I did learn how to channel probably in, I don't know, late 1980s. Not sure when. I'd have to find the paperwork. I still have it because that's just like me. That kind of stuff I keep. So after going through all of this stuff, and I took a channel clearing class, I took energy healing classes, but it was fun, it was cool, I liked doing it, and definitely had experiences. But this one experience was the experience that really changed my life. And this was in New York City, and it was around 2003, I think, something like that, 2003. And what happened was I decided to take a psychic development class. Now, this class, it was just called a psychic development class. So I would love to develop my psychic abilities, because I think most people who have psychic abilities, they just happen randomly. And people who want to explore that, you want to be able to actually have some sort of control over it, so that you can be psychic when you want to be psychic, not just when it randomly occurs. So it's sort of like the turn on switch, and to help you become more sensitive, so that you know that you're getting psychic information. And that's important too, because we're always receiving information, always. I mean, that's just part of it. Anyway, so I went to this class, and it was a really fun class. I've talked about this before. It was in New York City. The teacher was Stephen Robinson, Holistic Studies Institute, which does not sound like an institute that teaches psychic abilities. But anyway, so first class, we play Psychic Pictionary. It was really fun. The teacher has a whiteboard. He draws a picture on it. Nobody can see it. And you're supposed to bring, of course, paper and pen or pencil to every class and take notes. People took notes back then, besides on their phone. And I recommend it. Bring paper and pencil and take notes. It's a really good thing. Helps you remember, too. But, so we're sitting in this class. We play Psychic Pictionary. He flips the board around to see what everybody drew. It's like, and he said, draw the first thing that comes into your head. And I did. I was like, okay. Anyway, I pretty much got 90% of that correct. More like 95% of that picture. Which was what he drew, was a very simple, a little island, a tiny little island with a couple of trees, a couple of seagulls, the sun, and a little boat. That's what I drew. I think I missed a couple of the birds or something like that. Anyway, that shocked me. I'm like, okay. So first impression, always go with your first impression. Anyway, but it was the second class where something happened that was really quite extraordinary. So I'm in the second class, and he said to us, I'm going to turn out the lights, and we're going to have a seance. Second class, beginner class. Now, it turns out this guy was a spiritualist minister. I don't even know if I'd heard of spiritualism at that point in my life. I had heard of mediums, but I didn't know any. No, didn't know any. Anyway, no, I did go to one medium once, probably right around 1987, something like that. Went to a medium, and she said my sister was right there with me, and then she was saying, hey, so your sister Jenna, and I can't remember if I told her her name or not, but she's like, she's standing right behind her. Say hi to her. And all I thought was, okay, this woman, I can't with this. And so I said, hi, Jenna. And this kind of like, I can't believe I'm doing this because I don't believe it. Anyway, so I was that way at some point in my life and around mediumship, because it was just not a world that was familiar to me at all. Even though I did believe that could happen, because I knew when my brother died that he was standing directly behind me several hours after he passed. So I knew that these things were possible. I just didn't know anyone who could do it that I believed. Anyway, so we were going to do mediumship in this class. I didn't know that we were going to do mediumship in this class. It said psychic development on the thing. Anyway, so lights out, full on lights out. There's about 35 people in the class. We're sitting around. He leads us through a short meditation, a relaxation meditation, says a prayer of protection, and opens the circle to spirits to come in to speak to us. Now, he starts giving messages, and so this is the first time I've ever done this, and we did not have time to really be afraid. It was like, oh, we're just doing this. He's throwing us in to the deep end. And so we're all looking around, and you can see things. I mean, this is a very dark room, and you can see little sparkles of light and shimmery things here and there. And a little past halfway through the class, maybe 3/4 of the way through the class, I see a spirit walking in front of me. And I mean a full-on manifestation of a ghostly-looking being walking down the middle of the room. She stops, turns towards me, and walks straight to me. She puts her head in my lap and starts crying. Now, she looks like a ghost. I mean a full-on, like, white, ghostly apparition, just exactly like you see in the movies. I knew it was a woman. She puts her head in my lap and starts to cry. Now, the extraordinary thing is also not just that I'm seeing this for the first time in my life, also that I know what's going on. I'm receiving information about why she's crying and who the message is for. And it's for a woman who is sitting 2 seats down from me. And this has never happened to me before. And so I very meekly said, because I'm doing what other people are doing. I have a message for someone here. And saying it very quietly. And I said, it's for this woman right here. Because there were one woman and then another woman. I said, it's her mother, and her head is in my lap, and she's crying. She's crying. And after that, I can't remember. I don't remember what the actual message was about her. Probably some sort of regret and sadness around something in their relationship. That's an easy guess. But it was something like that. Anyway, she immediately starts crying, and I knew that this was accurate. I knew it was accurate information, and that this was real. And anyway, after that class, was like, that's the coolest thing that's ever happened to me, and I have to dive into this. And I mean, not just little doggy paddle into the river. Now, this is like fully dive in. What's going on here? This is amazing. I need to do more of this. And so I did that class. Oh, by the way, I didn't get her name. I knew it was a mother and that she was the daughter. And there's definitely problems with the relationship and a lot of sadness and tears. So it wasn't a more complex message. I didn't know how to receive evidence beyond that, but this was my first experience doing that, so it was super cool. Anyway, so after that, I went to all the classes. I don't think I missed any classes unless there was some weird have to do something that came up. I took all of the classes from beginning to the end of the classes, to the advanced, and I did psychic fairs and stuff, and I was terrified doing my first psychic fairs and giving readings for people. That was scary. Anyway, because you're like, you got to be on and you got to be good at it, and you don't know how good you are, but you have to actually, if you want to do this, you have to put yourself out there and be scared. Go, okay, I hope this is right. And that's one of the hardest things about doing psychic work or mediumship work or any of this, that you could be wrong. And humans hate being wrong. They hate it. I hate it. I don't love it, but you have to say what you get and be vulnerable in that way. And that's scary. So it's not an easy job. Anyway, did I see? Yeah. Just checking on Peanut there. So I went through the all of the levels of that class. I also took how to be a seance conductor there with them. So that was fun. And then also they had a monthly seance too. So I was at all of those. So I got a lot of experience just sitting in the seance, doing this work, and really doing a deep dive into it. And then at some point I did move to Phoenix, and I kind of lost connection with that world because I couldn't find a place that was doing this kind of work, because it's one of my favorite things to do. Anyway, so this changed what I did. It changed my trajectory. So, and I was a hairdresser then, and so I had so much fun telling my clients about my latest psychic stories and my latest stories about what occurred in class and what we saw and what we, all this stuff. It was really, really fun. This changed the path of my life. And anyway, it was very, very cool. So I did want to say how, after having that experience, then moving here to Phoenix, to share a little bit of how I developed my abilities, because I did have a short period of time, a couple years, where I really didn't do a lot in that world until I had a client who came in. I was doing her hair, and she kept talking about her son who had passed. And it was a stillbirth, and it hadn't happened that long ago, and she kept talking about it over and over and over again, and it was so sad. But every time that she talked about her son that she lost, and she almost died in this experience, he would pop in, and I could see him, but I did not see him. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I said this, when I saw that ghost apparition, my eyes were open. It was in front of me. This experience that I'm talking about now, where this woman, I'm doing her hair, and she was talking about her son that had passed. And she never got to hold her baby as a live baby. I mean, it was very sad. She almost died. And she was still in recovery, so there was a lot of pain there. Every time she talked about it, I could see him. But this was in my mind's eye. It was here in my mind's eye. I could see him standing kind of up here behind us, and he was sending messages to me to tell her. Now, she was there for a couple of hours because it was a haircut. It was a full highlight haircut and a blow dry. That's a lot of time. It's about 3 hours, something like that. So I think I'm blow drying her hair, and he's shown up like 3 times. And she started talking about him again. And he's standing right there, and so I finally just said, okay, I have to tell her. I wasn't going to tell her. And so I said, you know what? I don't know if you know this about me, but I've done a lot of training in mediumship. And I can talk to people who are on the other side. And every time you talk about your son, he shows up. And he's here right now. But what he looks like, and this was a really important part of the reading, or wasn't a reading, of the message, was he does not look like what you think. You see him as this tiny little baby, this baby that you gave birth to, but had already passed. And you see that this helpless life form that you gave birth to, and how sad and tragic that is. I said, but what he's showing me is that that is not who he is. He is this, and this is what he is showing me. He is a magnificent being. And I truly mean that when I say a magnificent being, because what he was showing me was this beautiful spirit that was fully engulfed in this gorgeous, radiant, sparkly energy. It was a stunning vision that he kept saying, this is who I am. And he was not even an adult, because he was beyond adult. He wasn't a baby. He was a magnificent being, a spirit being, who actually is in this form that I'm talking about, and not the baby. And that he wants you to know that. So how you see him or feel about him or think about him, that is not who he is. And the message also had to do with her healing from that, and he didn't want her to be so sad. Now, this is really, really common when people come through. They don't want you to be so sad. Now, it's hard. I've had 3 siblings who passed, and I was younger. It's hard not to be sad, but they wish for us to be happy, and that's what he was wanting for her, and to find healing. And I don't know her these days. She moved to a couple hours away, but I know that she started doing a lot of work around stillbirths and what is and having what happened to her not happen to other mothers in their pregnancy, and so it became part of her life's work to help other mothers not go through this. So anyway, so I know a lot of healing has happened through that experience for her. Anyway, so that happened when I got to Phoenix, and I can't remember exactly when that was. So that kind of like, okay, I have to start doing mediumship again and more psychic work, and just find a place to practice, because this is not going away. This needs to continue. I can't just be a hairdresser. There's much more going on here that is much more important and much deeper. So I did find a spiritualist church to go through. The Chapel of Spiritual Harmony was what it was called, and it has a different name now. I started going there. I started taking classes again. I met a bunch of really, really fun, cool people. And I was in class every single week, just doing it again so that I could start practicing again, because you really need to practice it so that you can start trusting your messages. You start trusting what you get. You start getting, oh, that's a man. Oh, that's a woman. Oh, I'm getting names. Oh, I'm getting this. And start recognizing when the information comes in so that you can get better and have more confidence, which is one of the hardest things. When you do this work, you can start having more confidence and trusting the information that you get, so that it really does start to flow. And what I did at some point at the church, we started doing a healing circle every Sunday. This was, it started out as it was a healing message circle, and in the beginning it was much more healing. So there were a bunch of healers sitting around in a circle, like sending healing energy, which is great. But at some point it became a message and healing circle. So everybody gave messages to whoever was sitting in the center of the circle. And so I got really good. So a couple times a week, I was giving messages and becoming more and more psychic and becoming better at giving messages. So I was doing this a couple of times a week. And this was for free, or I was paying for classes, one or the other. So, but that is how you develop. I found a place to sit and give messages and tune into my psychic abilities and then share them with other people. This is how I developed. This is how you can develop. So see if you can find a place where you can practice your mediumship or your psychic abilities so that you can give messages and get really, really good at it and trust your messages. And at some point, you'll become a really good medium and psychic. And it's super fun. And also, when you do this kind of work, other things happen. Like, things can come through that really, really surprise you. Like, suddenly a healing energy will come through while you're giving a message, and you're like, okay, well, healing's just happening, so I'm just going to sit here and let that happen while I'm sitting there. And one of the more, and this was back in New York, one of the more extraordinary experiences that I had doing this work was, and I still don't know exactly who they are, but I have been getting more information, so I'll share a video with that at some point. I'm going to show my picture. Here's my picture. There we go. Now, this isn't completely accurate in the sense that, there we go. These beings came through. This was in the advanced class that I was taking back in New York. What happened was, this class was just a meditation. It was supposed to, we did the advanced class, sometimes we just meditated for 2 hours. And that was it, with the lights off. And again, you can see extraordinary things when you're doing things like this. But there was a lot of trust in this room. We all knew each other. We all went through the beginning, intermediate, and advanced class with each other. So there was a lot of trust there in this class. Anyway, so this class, sometimes in these where we just meditated, like you could look around and start seeing like the transfiguration occur with people in the group, where people would just start looking differently than they do. And at some point, like, there was a lot of Buddhist monks. I'm like, okay, that side over there, everyone looks like a Buddhist monk. I think this is not the first lifetime we've had together. We've sat in meditation as Buddhist monks together. Not everybody, but this is what I was seeing, and I felt like I was part of that group too. Just interesting experiences. But at some point, so what happened, I opened my eyes, and I would open my eyes on occasion and look around because you're in a dark room. You can see things. It's really cool. So what happened is I had opened my eyes and I saw this light kind of go all the way across the room. It was gold, yellowish light went like this. And this is like all the way across the room. It was pretty big. And then the level opened up, so there was a top part to it and a bottom part, and five beings walked out. These 5 beings look like this. Now, I'm going to do some new paintings of this because they are really actually a little less egg-shaped. That's okay. This is, I got to do some new ones. But yeah, that's it. So let's put that right there so you can really see that. That's what they look like. They were see-through, and they were kind of orb-shaped, oval orb-shaped. There was a line that went straight down the top to the bottom and then across. Now, the cross was probably more around here. As far as if you had a body, it was right around here. Went straight across. And there was a light in the middle, and the orb shape, there was light coming off of them. It was very gold colored. And as they moved, you could see the light move inside here and then also around them. They were around 15 feet tall. They were very large. I watched a couple of them walk over to this guy who was sitting on the other end of the room. This Russian guy, older guy, him and his daughter took the class together. They were both very psychic. One stood behind him, one stood in front of him, and he completely disappeared. Now, poof, he disappeared. They disappeared. His chair moved back about 2 feet, and he was gone. He was completely gone. Now, before he disappeared, I was like, oh man, this is really cool. I mean, this is pretty amazing. It's kind of weird, but but I'm watching in amazement because I don't know, how often do you see things like that? And my eyes are open watching this. But then when he disappeared, that's when I kind of freaked out a little bit. Anyway, what was I going to say about that? It was just an interesting experience, and I didn't know what to do. I don't remember the rest of the class. That's the most interesting thing. Well, maybe not the most interesting, but that's interesting that I don't remember the rest of the class. I remember coming back, the lights are going on, the class is over. So I told my teacher what I saw. He didn't know what to say. I told Stephen, like, hey, what do you think about this? Yeah, he didn't know what to say. But anyway, yeah, to this day, I do have them pop in. Now, they don't pop in the way that they did in that class, but I see them, I ask them for help. I use that actual construction of the lights around me with this gold coming through me, and it kind of helps me to hold my energy field and also to stay really focused in an expanded state of awareness. So it has actually, it's interesting, using that kind of energy configuration has helped me quite a bit. And I do have them help me with energy healing. And I also use that energy configuration for the people that I'm doing energy healing on. It kind of helps with the energy field. It's very interesting. I'll speak more about that at some point. Anyway, so you can develop your psychic abilities, and the best way to do that is practice. So find a place to practice. I know it's hard to do in certain places where you live, and there, might be some big constraints around that. But if you can find a practice group where you can practice your psychic abilities, sit in circle and just turn out the lights, say a meditation. It doesn't have to be completely dark, but it does help to develop your psychic abilities to practice in the dark. It doesn't need to be total blackout dark, but it does help because you don't rely on your sight as much, because we make a lot of assumptions when we can see things, that it feeds us information, of course. But having the lights out help a lot with seeing things, with developing your clairvoyance, and tuning in more to yourself and quieting the mind. Meditation helps, of course, and if you read a lot of the mediumship books and older mediumship books, mediums who are really good, guess what? They all sat in circle and practiced. They sat in circle weekly to practice their abilities. So please, if you can find a group, find a group. There are a lot of Zoom groups, Zoom practice groups. I mean, that's great. That is a really good thing to do. But if you can find an in-person group, that's even better. In fact, that's the best. Really, that's the best. Anyway, please let me know if any of this helps. Please explore your psychic abilities. If you had any experiences that just turned you on to doing this kind of work, let us know. I think a lot of people have had these kind of experiences, more than we know. I think, sometimes it can be scary to share your experiences, because when you have a lot of these kind of experiences, people might say that you're crazy, or you're not dealing with a full deck, you're delusional, all sorts of things. And you can question that for yourself too. But we all have mystical experiences, are part of life. They are part of life. I think we're supposed to have them. I think it gives us some validity to why we're here, because we're not here just to drive to work every day and pay our bills. There's so much more to life than that. And so having mystical experiences adds to that and brings a beauty and a connection that is so healing and wonderful. when you can do work like this. Anyway, I am rambling now. Okay, I'll stop. Anyway, let me know what you think about all of this, and if you have any cool experiences, please do so on the in the chats. Anyway, have a great day, everybody, and bye for now.